welcome to another interesting webinar on a topic that is relevant to current times. It's about rubber demology in pediatric dentistry. Today I have with me two interesting minds in pediatric dentistry. Two people inspired many youngsters in India and abroad to do quality work. Welcome Dr. Abhishek Soni and Dr. Sanchit Paul. It's indeed a great pleasure to have you both in our session today. My first question is, we have, there are a lot of webinars going around right now related to the use of rubber dam. So why is there so much furor about rubber dam now, and why is it so relevant during the pandemic times?
Thank you for such a warm and generous introduction, Dr. Padmanabhan. Both Abhishek and me felt that with the whole lockdown, whenever there was amazing sections of yours, I think 3 months passed by very smoothly and very informatively. Such an amazing line of speakers we had all the 3 months. So we are both privileged and honored to be here and looking forward to share our experiences in rubber demology in pediatric dentistry. So just to begin with, when it comes to rubber dam, the rubber dam was always with an N, but which is both dam. But somehow during this pandemic times and in coronavirus, the N has just shelved, and now it has actually become a dam. Now, why it is so? If you see any of the guidelines, be it WHO, be it CDC, be it ICMR, our own dental guidelines, DCI, IDA, one thing which is unanimous, one thing which is standard, one thing which has no doubts is rubber dam. Every the guidelines mentioned about rubber dam as one of the most effective ways for infection control. There was an amazing article came out in May 2020, which talks about the international consensus about each and every SOPs of their individual countries. And as we can see, rubber dam stands very tall and very high, along with the high volume suction. So what's the general reason behind it? The general reason is that we have to understand the whole contamination part happens when we are talking about the mouth. But rubber dam is the only one thing which actually make a shield between the mouth and the tooth. So as rightly discussed and mentioned by my friend Abhishek, I think the best PP is not what we wear, is the one which actually tooth wears, which is your rubber dam. So we can say that rubber dam is the most effective PP worn by the tooth, which will help us. So that's one thing which we want to give it as a takeaway. The interesting thing is nothing is new about it. We have articles back from 1980s and 90s which highlight that rubber dam, along with the pre-procedural mouth rinse, is most effective way to cut the bacterial load. That is up to 98.8%. So that's a huge number. But there's one article which has been a little contention, and I'm sure some of us has read about it, which basically mentions that this rubber dam usage will actually increase the aerosol value. Now we have to understand a very important difference between a bioaerosol or a medical aerosol and a dental aerosol. Now when we talk about medical aerosol or a bioaerosol, we are talking about something which is coming from the nasopharynx or the oropharynx, which has high viral load and which is infectious. Whereas when we call this dental aerosol, it is a sterilized water which is coming from our aerator or our three-way syringes, and it is splattering across the shield, which is rubber dam, and coming back. So if your tooth is already being taken care by antiseptic or by a disinfectant, there would be hardly any bacterial load. So important thing to remember whenever we talk about aerosol is that there's a difference between dental aerosol and a medical aerosol. So that is the key thing where the dam has now become an integral part of our practices as of now.
Wow, that's really fantastic. I really love the part, especially when you emphasized about rubber dam being the best PP. We are all in search for the best PP, and we are looking at it outside. But I believe the best PP comes from within our own dental armamentarium, and that is our rubber dam kit. Thanks a lot, Sanchit, for that wonderful answer. Now, without wasting much time, let's get into the nitty-gritty of rubber dam actually. So let's have a quick review about the different constituents, the different components of rubber dam. So let's go ahead with that.
So any standard rubber dam kit you will have these four components, which includes your rubber dam sheet, your rubber dam clamp, your frames and your template, and your forceps, your clamp forceps, along with the rubber dam punch. So let's look at each one at a time. So the rubber dam sheets, these are basically pre-cut sheets which are available in sizes of 5 by 5 to 6 by 6. The sizes really don't matter as long as you keep the sheet below the level of the nose of your child patient. We all know about the different thicknesses that are available. It ranges from 0.15 millimeter and goes on to extra heavy, which is special heavy, which is about 0.35 millimeters. One thing that we need to understand is that your thickness of your rubber dam is directly proportional to the amount of retraction that you require. Now, in pediatric dentistry, the amount of retraction is much concern, except while you're doing your full mouth isolation, or the child has a huge tongue. That's when you will probably need your heavy or your extra heavy sheets. Otherwise, the most commonly used gauge is your medium. And in certain cases where your rubber dam sheet is unable to go through the contact areas, that's when your thin rubber dam sheets will come. Next, please, Sanjay. So if I may ask, what's the major throwback to the use of rubber dam into practice? So I have interacted with my colleagues, and the common answer which they usually say that they place the clamp and then they enter with the sheet, and the sheet tears. They take another sheet, they enter, and it tears again. So that's one of the major throwbacks wherein you tend to lose confidence to incorporation of your rubber dam into practice. So we have to understand three things over here. One is that your dental sheet is a disposable material which has a limited shelf life. So it's better to keep them refrigerated. Don't stock or pile them up. Use it as you wish. And there are two important points that you need to take into consideration is your elasticity and your resilience of your rubber dam sheet. What is elasticity? So if you see over here, the punch is 2.3 millimeters in diameter, which is stretched up to 3 centimeters. And yet your sheet has not ruptured or it's not torn. So that is basically elasticity is what you need to look for when you're buying your sheet. Resilience is your 3 centimeter stretch comes back to your 2.3 millimeters. That means it's coming back to, it's taking the original shape again. So that's your resilience. So resilience is important when you want a good 360-degree peripheral seam because that's where it will hold on to the cervix of the tooth. Next, please, Sanjay. Coming to colors, now that's an individual phenomenon, it's an individual choice. It's basically a question of habit. So I'm used to the pastel blue or the pink color sheets that you must have commonly seen. Sanchit is probably used with the black sheets, he's more comfortable. But then if we go into the nitty-gritties of it, your black sheets are basically going to provide a better contrast. So for your restorative procedures, you would want to go for your dark color sheets. And your light sheets basically make the operative field bright. So when you're doing your endo procedures, that's when you can use your lighter colors. Your lighter colors are basically semi-transparent, so it gives you an indication or it helps you while you're placing your radiographs into the patient's mouth. Next, please. So we have about 10 companies providing rubber dam sheets, which are available in India. But the most common that we are using is the ones by Quality, the one by Sanctuary. The two which are not mentioned over here is one by Cofferdam, and another one, the pink sheets are available by Crick Dental. The price range is basically between around 900 to 1200 box of 36 sheets. And that's about 20 to 25 rupees invested, I would say, rather than spent from peace of mind and the patient's safety perspective.
Wow, great. So, I mean, the point where you emphasized about refrigerating the rubber dam, all right? Now, the rubber dam sheets, now that is an excellent point, actually. So, that's going to be a major takeaway message for a lot of them here. I'm sure that we've always piled our rubber dam sheets inside a small packet and we've tucked it behind,
Right.
a small shelf, and we've always worried as to the rubber dam sheets tearing, actually. Okay,
Right.
so that's a great point about rubber dam sheets. Now, what about Nictone? I mean, are you comfortable using Nictone sheets? What's your view on that, actually?
So the Nictones are the best ones which are available and the standard ones. So if you compare your medium size with your Sanctuary Heavy, you will see that that's where the diameters of both matches. So if we are looking for standard sheets, then it's your Nictone, and the Pacel Blue works really well for us.
So actually, sir, the
Great.
best idea would be clinically one should buy a combination of Nictone medium and heavy and Sanctuary medium and heavy, and then work it around, because this is somewhere we understand how much retraction we need for our individual case. But more or less for pediatric dentistry, as Dr. Bish extra heavy. So medium and heavy of any of the companies would work it around well.
Great, great, great. So let's go ahead. I mean, let's talk about the next important thing, your rubber dam clamp forceps. Then, actually.
Yeah. So rubber dam forceps is something which is very, very important. There has been a lot of evolution from the beginning, right? The initial designs was somewhere what the University of Washington, but the one which is currently most popular and most commonly used is the lightweight ivory type, which we use very regularly and which is most commonly available to all of us. The important thing here to clinical takeaway is that serration should be very nice and clear, because sometimes if the bluntness is not there, these get stuck while placing the clamp or removing the clamp. So that's important to check with the kit. Rubber dam punch. Now this is something again which is very, very important. This is what defines the hole which we would create in the rubber dam. Now the sizes are very, very clearly defined. The largest hole will always be for the anchor tooth. So even if you're doing one tooth for an endodontic purpose, it has to be the biggest hole, the anchor tooth, because we have to place the clamp within it. But suppose we are doing a multiple teeth or a quadrant isolation, then the tooth which is being clamped will have the anchor hole, the bigger one, size 5, and then the next one will be size 4. So as it's already mentioned in the diagram, the smallest will be generally mandible anteriors. The little bigger one, next one will be maxillary anteriors, and then maybe our D's and E's. So we generally don't need canines much over there. But the important takeaway is that if we put a bigger hole for a smaller tooth, the rubber dam will not stay there. And if we put a smaller hole for a bigger tooth, the retraction will be a problem and the tear will happen. So it's important to put an appropriate hole for the appropriate tooth size. Now, sometimes when we are trying to punch, what happens is we see the shapes like this. Now we think that this is nothing, but in our experience, we feel that this is the one which actually triggers the tear. Reason being because there's already a weak point in that hole, and the moment you want to stretch, it's just going to tear away. So very important clinical takeaway is that once you punch, the punch should be very firm and clean. And in case you feel there is a tag, better to punch another hole. And also, once you are done with the punch, make sure that you stretch it well. Because if you don't stretch it outside the mouth, there is a very good chance it will go away in the patient's mouth. And that's where we lose confidence. The child feels hassled and the parents feel, what is going with my child? So once you stretch well, it stays well, as Dr. Abhishek mentioned, the 3 centimeter thing, we are good.
Okay, great. So what is the rubber dam punch that you actually advise to go for? I mean, there are a lot of punches again in the market, or you just go with the Colteen kit or any kits that are coming up?
Yeah, so usually the punches are coming along with the kit only. The standard companies, the Colteen, the Hygienic, the GDC, they are pretty good. We really don't have to go out. But yes, we want to mention a company by the name iDent. It's very, very well popular in the current times because they did a lot of initiative for making rubber dam popular. They have an assembled kit. So again, whenever we're buying a kit, it's important to check each and every component. These components would be there for us for a long period of time. like our extraction forceps, our pliers, our orthodontic pliers. So this is same thing. So just check while you're buying it, and you can try punching it. Once it does well, then it will be good for you. So moving ahead for the clamps, I'm passing the baton to my friend Abhishek.
So if I may add, with the choice of the rubber dam kit, it's a one-time investment. Try to go for the best one. That's your quality. We were trained into using it since our PG days. So my kit is from 2011, sir. And the clamps have not lost their resilience yet. So
Wow.
just go for quality to start with.
Wow. Okay.
So coming to clamps, this is basically required to secure your rubber dam sheet to the tooth. What you see over here is basically a wingless clamp. And the W3 that you see, it's basically divided into two components. That's your bracket component, and the bracket joins the two branches. Now, this bracket component is very important because that's the one which provides the compressive strength to the clamp to anchor themselves to the tooth. Oddly, they're classified into your retention clamps and your retraction clamps. So retraction clamps are basically your Brinker's clamps, and your retention clamps are divided into your winged and your wingless. Next, please. So what are the parts of the clamp? The bracket part that you see, that comprises the bow. Now this bow joins two prongs, two jaws. Now this, the branch component has two prongs on either side. And these prongs basically help provide a 4-point contact. Now this 4-point contact is essential to check for the stability of the clamp. The jaw also has an important component which is called as the furrow. When you go in with your winged clamp with the rubber dam sheet into the patient's mouth, you want to push, you want to reflect the rubber dam sheet over the jaws. That's when you use your blunt instrument through the furrow to just displace the rubber dam sheet under the clamp. So two types of clamps. One is your flat jawed clamp, which is useful when your tooth is completely erupted. In case of your partially erupted tooth or your tooth which is broken down, you need these splitted clamps or the active clamps. Next, please. So these are not commonly used in pediatric dentistry. However, certain instances, as you start getting used to your rubber dam into practice, you will realize that your B3 and B4 will come handy in your pediatric dental procedures. Next, please. So we made a little effort for you to easily understand which clamps will be used for your permanent molars, which clamps can be used for your primary second molars, the clamps which will be used for your primary first molars. Next, please. So coming to your 12A and 13A, which we are commonly using. So let's understand what is W and what is A over here. Wherever W is coming, that stands for your wingless clamps. And wherever you see A, that stands for your active clamps. Now, where do you need an active hold? You need an active hold in your partially erupted teeth or your severely broken down teeth. However, we have been most commonly using our 12A clamps or the 13A clamps, which are commonly called as your tiger tooth clamps. So it has multiple serrations. So the side which has more serrations is always placed buccal. So 12A is basically for your lower right and the upper left, or second molars. Your W3 and your W8, these are wingless clamps for the second primary molars. And your premolar clamps, basically you can use them for your primary first molars. Now the number 7 and the W7 clamps are usually used for your molar teeth, your permanent molars. In case your permanent fissure is partially erupted, that's when your 14A will come handy.
Okay.
Yeah. So just wanted to add a little point over here. The nomenclature of the clamps is always very tricky to remember the numbers, to remember everything. But it's important to remember that in pediatric dentistry per se, especially when talking about primary dentition or mixed dentition, we'll be going to use selected clamps only. And once we know how to play around with it, then we know that, okay, 7 can go up, that 13A can go down. And so that's a little bit of play around which will happen over the time. But the key thing is to use it regularly, consistently in every case. Then only the clamps will be our friends. Otherwise, we'll always struggle which one to put where.
True. So I've always been using the winged and the wingless clamps, the regular numbers that you've been mentioning about. I've always reserved the Brinker clamps for the adult patients, predominantly when I'm doing the cervical restorations or when I need to access the deeper margins. That's when I've been always using the Brinker clamps. So I guess I'm going to take this cue from your presentation. I'm going to look at using the Brinker clamps, making good use of the Brinker clamps in primary teeth. Great, thanks. Great, Covid. So let's go on.
Usually the primary canines is where you can use your Brinkers, because that's where you classically see your class 5 lesions most commonly.
Okay. Great. So let's go on. Yeah.
Okay, so the next interesting part is the types of frames. So as we all aware, we have read in the textbooks and we have gone through in our department time that we have a metal frame and we have a plastic frame. Now, metal frame is a Young's metal frame, and it has basically the sharp points over there in the whole frame over there, where the plastic frame is a Nice-Guide Osby frame, which has 8-point contact over there. Now, both of them are quite similar, but clinically, the difference is that the plastic frame points got blunt over the time. Now that's where your rubber dam sheet starts picking out over there. And again, it's an hassle while you're working with a child. So metal is always preferable to the plastic one over the time. But since the foldable unanimously the foldable frame one, the simple reason is it allows us to take radiographs in between the while doing the endo work, or if we need to take any intraoperative x-rays for a crown or anything else. Most importantly, one can open it up and do some suction in between. The child also feel a little less hassled. So it's a primary choice of frame now in today's time. A little quick video to show how does it work. Our assistant should be knowing how to do this, because primarily the assistant will be the assistant side where he would be folding and unfolding it. So this is something which is very, very helpful. But again, given a choice, you can pick a metal frame depending on the clinical situation. So these are the main components which would be required for our rubber dam armamentarium.
Great. What about the other adjuvants actually that are going to be very necessary? I mean, let's also talk about that.
Yeah.
So the essential items are going to come with your rubber dam kit. What you need more is your water-soluble KY jelly. You can use your tissue napkins. How we can modify it, we'll just see it in the following slides. You will need your ligatures, your floss, your elastics, your wedgets, which come by Coltene in 3 different sizes, and your Teflon tape. So let's see how we can use the KY jelly to our advantage. So you need a water-soluble one rather than your Vaseline, because let's take a clinical situation where you are splitting the dam in the second quadrant. You have a primate space mesial to the canine, and the only point of retention is your mesial slope of your primary canine. So you've stretched your dam and you've applied Vaseline on the undersurface. Your dam will always slip over the canine and try to get back to your mesial surface of D or your distal surface of your E. So your rubber dam will never stay in place because it will keep slipping because of the lubrication. So that's when you need a water soluble jelly, which will be easily washed out. Now the second component is your soft dam or your liquid dam, wherein probably you have made a smaller punch and you've stretched your dam so much that it's not having enough resilience to come back to its original shape. And you see a small gap wherein you have some fluid seepage happening. So that's when you can use your soft dam to achieve a good peripheral seal. Or in certain situations where you're doing your class 2s, and that's where your Teflon tapes will also come handy for a better isolation. Next, please. Now, the use of napkin is basically provide some cushioning under your rubber dam sheet. It's going to absorb the saliva because as adults, we may be used to swallow in between, but your child may drool, so your napkins can come handy. In case the child is allergic to the sheet, that acts as a barrier between not allowing the sheet to contact the skin surface. And of course, it's a convenient method to clean the wet mouth once your rubber dam sheet is out. So credits to Dr. Tanupriya Gupta. We've used some of her slides. She has given this idea of using the kitchen roll and cutting it in such a way that you can use the same for your tissue napkins under the rubber dam sheet. Next, please. Now coming to your wax dental floss, it is basically used to slide the rubber dam edges into the interproximal spaces. It is used to secure the clamp. Make sure that you secure both the jaws of the clamp, because in cases of fracture, if you have only flossed the buccal ends, you may lose the lingual end. There's chances of aspirating the lingual component of your fractured clamp. Very rare, but if you have clamped it in this manner, if you have tied the floss in this manner, then it gets easy to retrieve and prevent any aspirations from happening. The usual length of the floss to keep is about 12 inches or more. Your floss can also be used to prepare ligatures, and your wedges, as I said, are available in 3 sizes, your small, medium, and large, to secure the rubber dam sheet in your interproximal spaces. So certain situations where you're not using your clamps, that's when your wedges or your cut part of your rubber dam sheet, you fold it and you can use to retain the sheet onto the tooth surface.
Yeah.
Next.
I think we have an interesting video which is coming up where we will be highlighting how to do the ligature thing. So that will be coming up. Yeah.
Great, great. So that's really fantastic, man. Because I've always wondered if we had a great role for widgets in primary dentition. So I've never used it much. I've always relied on the cut rubber dam sheets, to give me the interproximal hold that is often required. Great. So I'm looking forward to learn more about widgets as well.
So there was an interesting post on PDF Sir where they had used orthodontic separators as well. So if you see over here, we've used our, the orthodontic elastics, the E-chains, as a retentive component to secure your dam in the anterior region. So in the video, we have shown how you stretch the elastics and carry it onto the tooth surface.
Wow.
But you know what, Abhishek, no matter we talk about essential components or additional components, but I think the main thing which would really require to have a good rubber dam in a child's is a good isolation. For a good isolation is good lighting, because we really need to see. And the most important thing is a very good dental assistant. See, rubber dam is a teamwork. It's very difficult to try to put it again, especially in a child and a moving child. And that's where it becomes hassle. So the best thing is sit down with your assistant, go through with him, tell about the basic thing, because at a key point, he will be the one who will be providing you with the right component. He will be the one who will be actually stretching out for you. So I think this is a very essential part, which is generally not mentioned, the dental assistant. So one assistant should be dedicated for rubber dam usage, and that would really make our life easy. We have a small video to highlight how a 400 or 600 dentistry really works for the rubber dam part. We are trying to highlight that how a which who is actually FR1, hardly able to give any cooperation, is helping. Is we need to place a rubber dam, and how the teamwork is actually helping. So she's the one who hardly is able to accept the sedation well, and we had to do a deep caries management in this child. And once we were done with our initial work, and when the child was adequately sedated, we tried to place a rubber dam. And in this video, you can see how important it is to have multiple hands while placing the rubber dam. Now, if you see, we are using a foldable dam. The child is raising the hand, which is still saying that she's too conscious about it. But a good pair of hands, trained hands, can do the work very quickly. So this is something which is very key, that if you try to do this job alone, probably it will not work the same way. So that is important key takeaway. Good system makes an important armamentarium for them, and then after that, you can do your routine work very smoothly and cleanly without any contamination.
Great. So, let's go ahead and talk about the different methods of placing in different situations. Then, actually, let's go ahead with that.
Yeah.
So broadly, there are 4 ways of doing it. The most common technique that we're using in pediatric dentistry with your split dam technique, you always go with your clamp first, which is secured with your dental floss, and then slide your sheet over the clamp. In case you're doing a single tooth isolation, then you can go with your clamp and your rubber dam sheet together. Slide the sheet over and then just use your frame to stabilize it. If you're doing your anteriors, you can go with your sheet and the frame together and then slide the interdental septate using your ligature flosses or your wedgets. Next, please. So this is a small video where we are highlighting split dam and individual tooth isolation. So these are the winged clamps and the wingless clamps in the same frame. That's the foldable frame that Dr. Sanchit spoke about. Use your template to your advantage. Mark the punch holes. But with practice, you will, Dr. Sanchit will cover that point in the next slide. When you're isolating multiple teeth, don't forget to apply your KY jelly because that will help slide the sheet through the interproximal spaces. Now we are using this Unifloss to slide the sheet through the interproximal spaces, or you can use a waxed dental floss using the loop technique to slide the rubber dam sheet through the proximal spaces. This is where
the things which you can play around. I just wanted to add a quick point. These are the things which you can actually play around when you are doing in pediatric dentistry. You can come up with the innovative tools like this e-chain, the floss, the widget. We don't have to go the conventional way. The idea is, see, at the end in pediatric dentistry, we're not talking about complex procedures. We're talking about simple procedures, and simpler things make life more easy and simple. An important point to highlight over here is we generally try to end up with trying to always go with a template. The reason we were saying that we don't have to go the textbook way or the template way every time, because in our clinical experience, and as very, very nicely explained by Dr. Tanpriya Gupta also, that whenever the most distal tooth we are going for, suppose for example, a 8.5 or a 7.5, we don't have to have distally, like go for the template, because what it will do, at the end, we will end up with more of central version which is not required. So it's actually recommended to go for an asymmetric placement. So the key is, the more distal the tooth is, the more centrally the hole can be, especially when you're going for a single tooth. What it will do,
Great.
it will make sure that whole of your frame is now moved from here to here. Now, how it will help? It will automatically helps us to place your RVGs, your apex locators, your suctions, your high volume or volume evacuation, all those things. More importantly, the children with a mouth breather, they can actually breathe from here. So for single tooth isolation, once you're thorough with it, you really don't need anything else. You just need a mental makeup. You remember the tooth, you do the punch, put it there. So it actually cuts down more time than other than putting the holes in the rubber dam sheet. So this is an important clinical takeaway we wanted to give it through this presentation.
Wow, that's a very nice tip actually. So what are the common scenarios where things can actually go wrong actually here?
Yeah. So we've tried to compile some troubleshooting scenarios, because this is somewhere where all the implications come into a picture. Because when we get stuck in this situation, then we feel like, oh, this is tricky. Let me not do it. So let's quickly go through it. The one is the mouth breathing one. Now, this is something which is very, very common in these days. I'm sure we had so much of learning in the last 3 months and over the time, that we are now seeing more and more children with obstructive sleep apnea, with not a nasal breathing and mouth breathing, and with airway issues. Now, for all those children, once you put a rubber dam, it's like an oral screen to them. And that's where the trouble happens, because they will not able to breathe. They're not habitual to breathe from the nose. And then the trick, and then it gets hassle for the child. So for that, we have a small video, which is actually a very good improvisation by my friend Dr. Abhishek, is that you can actually punch a hole, a bigger hole size, and put through a barrel of the syringe, an empty syringe. Now, let me show the video how beautifully it can work for us. So once you have put that barrel, we can actually, the child can breathe, there is a vent, and you can actually use your suction tip along with it. So this is something which is, again, a key thing, especially when, despite putting an asymmetric placement, the mouth is getting covered. So this is especially for the young 3-year or 4-year-old, because they are the ones who get most squeamish, they are moving around, they're not comfortable. So this really helps. It's one can try and have an experience over it. The other possible thing is the mutilated teeth. So again, as we mentioned, there are specific clamps which are active, which has more inclined jaws, which would really help to have the grip. Now, this will be more required in the cases where you have a completely broken down tooth, or possibly your erupting 6, which has an MIH spot, and you want to probably do a restoration or an SDF or anything else. So those active clamps would really help again. Non-compliance is something which is very, very common again, especially depends on which part of the country you live in. When we talk about non-compliance, we basically means the child is not accepting or the parents are not willing for it. Now, this is something where our communication skills comes to the picture. Like the way you introduce an LA, like the way you introduce a nitrous oxide sedation, or for that matter, a crown or anything else, we have to introduce the rubber dam in a certain way. We have a certain slide. We probably would be happy to talk in detail about that. But presenting it well is an important key to both the parents and the child. Once they are on the board, then we should go for the rubber dam, because then the parent know the significance of it and would be actually helping in getting it done. Latex allergy again is something which is very, very, which is unnoticed, and only once we have used, because you will hardly get the parents who will tell that my child has a latex allergy. But in case you get to know that there has been some rashes or some form of allergic reaction to the child because of latex, it's important that we now have availability of non-latex rubber dam. They're a bit pricey than the latex ones, but again, use of tissue napkins or use of non-latex rubber dam sheets would take care of these issues. But it's important to have a follow-up with the parent that there were no rashes or there was no spots or any allergic reaction by the rubber dam sheets.
The pain and the pressure while placing your clamp can be taken care of by your local anesthesia. So for your restorative procedures and your pulpal therapies where you're going to apply your dam, you have anyways given your local infiltrations or your blocks. But in case of shorter procedures like your sealants, you can use your topical jelly or your spray. What we are using is 10% LOX spray, where we're using a small cotton pellet which is saturated with the same and just scrubbing along the marginal gingiva all around. Wait for a minute and then gradually take your clamp inside. Now, while you're taking your clamp inside, just be a little supragingival at the height of contour, and then gradually slip it over the height of contour, so that that does not cause any pain while placing. Now, coming to the second part where it talks about your clamp forceps getting stuck. Now, what happens because of this is as you're trying to retrieve your clamp forceps, there are times when your clamps fly off. So what you do is you gently rock your forceps and try to come out. What we do is we don't end up rocking it inside the holes. The clamp forceps, you rock it inside the holes and then gently come out to prevent this from happening. Now, if your child is crying incessantly, this is where your nitrosamine inhalation sedation will come to your rescue. And in case it just does not work, then you may have to just abort the procedure without taking it under rubber dam and just do without it. So if you see, sir, there's no absolute contraindication to the use of rubber dam. You just have to make a will and you'll find a way, just the way we found the mouth breathing case. So with practice, you'll get so used to it that you won't be able to do without it in the long run.
Great, great, great. So it's all about the willingness to do the procedure. I guess there is always a way out over all these troubleshooting scenarios. Thanks. That was very nicely summarized. I just have two doubts there regarding the pain portion of it, where the portion where you're talking about the pain actually. Of late, you had these soft clamps that are getting marketed because they say that it doesn't cause much pain when compared to the metal clamps. The ones from Kerr. Have you tried it actually, Abhishek or Sanchez? Have you tried it before?
So they're available by Kerr. We've not had a chance to try.
Okay, great. Actually, if it is okay with you, I'll add my personal experience on that. Now, I've tried this, the soft clamps. The ones with silicone that comes there, Kerr. They're too pricey. But again, as I said, it sometimes helps me avoid the use of the local anesthetic that may be required in some cases actually. But the only thing is, nothing like metal clamps. The grip that you get with metal clamps is something so amazing that I believe these soft clamps, they don't tend to provide that actually. And another point that I picked up from Dr. Celine Hickton, who's I really love her work actually, is that, which reminded me about the clamp forceps getting stuck, is that, what they say is there's no need for that groove in the clamp holding forceps. So what's your take on that actually? She said that, there's a groove in the clamp holding forceps that is used to retain the clamp and, to place the clamp, right? So she says that use some method in order to obliterate that groove. Either you thin it out, or you can actually block it with some type of a material and use the clamps. You can still place the clamps even if there is no groove. And while removing it, the groove does not get stuck and doesn't remove actually. Now I've just started experimenting this procedure. Now, do you find any great need for the groove in the clamp holding forceps? What's your take on that actually?
So not necessarily required, because as you carry the clamp with the forceps, you have already made it taut, or you've already activated the clamp. So there's no way your clamp is going to slip through the forceps. And the forceps which come with Coltene, they don't have grooves, sir. So I've really not had a first-time experience with the grooved forceps specifically. But then
I get it. So I think most of especially the one that I used, it had a groove, and I had to do some procedures to ensure that the groove was actually thinned out so that it doesn't get locked out and pulled outside actually. Great. So No, we've discussed about the conventional method of applying rubber dam and all that. What are the alternatives that we have right now for the regular rubber dams, and how useful are they actually?
Yeah, so there are certain variations which is available to us apart from the conventional rubber dam. They come by the name Optragate, Optradam, and Isolite system. So we can have a quick review about it. See, Optragate is basically for the retraction for the mainly interiors. They also come with the brand Optragate Juniors, a subdivision of it. Basically, in the cases of only interior, like where we are only focusing on interior. So all your trauma fracture cases, your buildups, your MIH spots, your hypomineralized spots in the interiors, or maybe a proximal lesion, your canines on your permanent interior, primary interiors, maybe in the zirconia crown presentation. So those comes in handy. They doesn't have any clamp system. It's not talking about any isolation. It's basically talking about only the retraction part. So for interiors, they are pretty handy, but yeah, you need to one need to get used to it or hang of it, how to exactly place and leave it. Because some children might feel a little pressure on the lips and they don't feel comfortable. So again, if we introduce a rubber dam or Optragate directly, there will always be a resistance. So playing around, introducing will always help to the child and for your procedure also. Now, Optradam is an extension of Optragate where you also have the retraction and the isolation part over there. This is by Ivoclar. At one time, it was very popular when it was introduced. But what we have realized in our experience is that it's tricky to use in a primary dentition or a child which is preschooler age or a pre-cooperative or a 3 to 5 years of age group. Children who are in mixed dentition, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, who have a little bit more maturity to cope, then we can use it. So there are both the ways we can use with the clamp or without the clamp. But again, depending on the child, the cognitive ability and ability to take up, then we can use this. Again, it cuts out the frame part and the holes are already punched. So you just have to slide down and hold it and do your procedure. The third one is, again, something which we haven't tried out ourselves. So we can't really comment on it, but we've heard about it, which is Isolite system. It's basically a combination of your retraction, your isolation, illumination, aspiration issues, everything together. But what we feel is the reason we couldn't actually get our hands is that it will be too bulky for a child. Possibly for an adult with an adequate mouth opening, one can place it and try doing it, but it will be too unfair for a child to really help in this. But yeah, we might be looking forward to give it a try. Maybe in a little 9 years, 10 years, or an adolescent age population. But yeah, so this is a variation which is available as of now.
Great. So somewhere in the answer, Dr. Sanchit, you are mentioning about, it's all about how you present it and how you play with it when you're talking about the Optragate actually. So I believe a key portion, which is not discussed in many other rubber dam webinars, is that, presenting the rubber dam to the patients actually, right? And I believe that the presentation part is very crucial when it comes to pediatric dentistry. So let's talk about that. I mean, how do you go ahead and present this rubber dam to your patients?
So we're all aware about the pediatric triangle, with the child being at the apex. So it's important to introduce the rubber dam to the child first. The euphemisms that you can use as your raincoat, which is commonly used, your clamps can be introduced as your tooth rings. So the child can actually slide the clamp into its little finger and just play with it. You can do your tell, show, do on the model outside. What we request the parents is to show the videos also to the child with the rubber dam in place, and directly go to the end where the child is getting off the chair, who is happy and motivated after the procedures are done under the dam. What we do is, in the first visit under noise, we introduce the sheet from far away. We tell them that this is a raincoat. We create a small warm story, as in how the kind of pain that you went through because of the naughty germs in your teeth. And if we don't apply this, the same naughty germs are going to travel in your stomach and cause some pain over there. And you may have to visit your pediatricians again. So these are a few ways of introducing the rubber dam and the sheets to the child. And then next, what we do is we hand over the sheet to the child and then let them feel it, let them play with it. And at times we allow them to take it home as well.
Wow, that's really nice. I really love that worm story and the part where you place it on the finger. Good, good. That's really nice.
So to extend it, apart from presenting to the child, it's important to present to the parents. Unfortunately, the problem, or we can say the awareness about rubber dam in India is still very limited. You will hardly get patients or the parents who will be actually asking for it. So we feel the rubber dam is an amazing practice builder. Now, if you are doing something for it, for the patient, for the child, and the parent feel that, now they probably will know that this is a standard of care, and they probably will try to ask, even if they get to some other doctor or their own doctor, if you're not treating them. So this is where we call this as a differentiator, being a differentiator. The important points to highlight is obviously you can make a handout or you can obviously show some videos that what are the merits. So I think the major thing which no parent would say no is that it is a safety from the accident, safety from the foreign aspiration, and safety from anything which might be a grave danger. So every parent would be happy to have something so that there is no accidental issue over there. The most effective way to highlight this is actually the videos. The videos which we are actually showing here, the simple 2-minute, 3-minute video, if we can make and highlight through our social media, through our YouTube channels, or through our own, in our own laptop, it really makes a difference, because once parents see that this is not done only for my child, this is done for every child, they take it up. And as we mentioned, since it's a practice builder, use good materials, use good rubber dam sheets. As we mentioned, it's a one-time investment. One can charge it also, because again, the time has come now that we have to cut down, break up our costs. Now, when we talk about any procedure, we only quote the procedure charges. We don't quote what we are actually using in front. But when the parents see that apart from doing a simple restoration or sealant, my doctor has done a proper isolation or proper, you can charge well. So why we highlight this charging well? Because once you charge well, you will be able to use the good materials, and the cycle keeps on going on. You keep on investing, you keep on having materials. So it's important to use it, to charge it, and then keep using it.
That was a very, very valuable part that you actually stressed upon, the need to, ensure that your cost is also optimized. Okay. So, this presentation has been a real good eye opener for me, in many, many aspects, because, although I've used rubber dam on and off, I'm sure that, like me, many people who are listening to this video, after, they're going to use this, they're going to become strict followers, or they're going to adhere to the rubber dam protocol more religiously. So before we wind up this wonderful presentation, I just want to ask you about what are the most important barriers that you still feel that are going to be present in using the rubber dam? Okay, let's just talk about that actually.
Okay, so this is where when we thought there might be not much, but when we actually start enumerating, we actually had quite a few. So it's an interesting slide. It's more of clinically oriented, like what exactly happens. So let's go point by point. So I think the major one thing which really stops from using rubber dam in pediatric dentistry is that child won't accept it. Now we have to understand it's a perceived notion. It's a perceived notion. It's in our mind that if I try to use it, the child will not like it, and let's not make a mess, and let's do just like that. The reality is, actually, if you were using it, or if you ask the people who use it, there is a very good positive dental experience for the child. When the parents see that my child is actually having a rubber dam in the mouth with the whole system, and he's absolutely relaxed, he or she, if you're sedated or if you're with audio-video distraction, there are good chances that the child actually doesn't feel anything. We have to understand a very key point. The major reason for a child or for any patient to get hassled is when you're constantly putting a stimuli, be an air, be a water, or be the sound. Now, when the rubber dam is being placed, these things are cut down. So the experience eventually becomes better once everything is placed well. So the child won't accept barrier is in our mind, and only when we use it regularly, consistently, every case as much as possible. It cuts down. The second thing is the time part. Now, this is where, which is actually very interesting, because there have been studies which has highlighted that from placing the rubber dam punch to the placing in the mouth, it takes 1 minute 46 seconds. Now, trust me, 1 minute 40 seconds is a time you probably might just talk a couple of minutes with a child. So it's hardly anything. And when it's come to removal, it's hardly 10 seconds. So again, maybe not in the beginning, but over the time when we're doing it regularly, this is the time we're talking about. And with all the advantages we have, this is something which is, I think, significant. We also, although we feel that we actually save a lot of time. How? Now, if you talk about a simple restoration of sealant, we don't realize how much time our assistant and we try to struggle with putting suction tip into it, putting a cotton isolation to it, changing it over there. Now, if you put a rubber dam over it, it actually saves you 40-50% of time. So there's a very famous, interesting discussion Abhishek and we were having, that it actually takes more time to convince someone for the dam rather than actually using it.
True. Great. So that's fantastic, actually. Yeah. So probably there are more excuses that we develop rather than actual barriers. So that's exactly the takeaway point from that slide that I'm getting from what you said right now.
So after the time consuming, the third again thing is the gingival discomfort. I think Dr. Abhishek has already gone through it. If you're doing already an anesthetic procedure or invasive procedure where we have to put an LA, so I think it's a no-brainer. You put an LA, especially with the cervical margin around the marginal gingiva, and it should be taken care. But in case you are doing a non-invasive procedure, a 10% LOX, as already mentioned, would be really helpful. Again, a good quality clamps, softer clamps, putting it supragingival, all really helps. The last is actually the most interesting part. Unfortunately, the education system or the dental education has been a bit heterogeneous in our country, and not all of us has got the similar type of training. And unfortunately, some of us actually have used rubber dam only during the exam time, and once we are done with it, we never looked at back. Also, when we come to the practice, we see that nobody else is using it. So we feel that rather than be a trend setter, we become a trend follower. So, but people like Dr. Vishal Gupta, Dr. Tanupriya Gupta, Dr. Rohit Khatapkar, people like Dr. Rahul Bisht, who has done a lot of hard work to promote and highlight rubber dam, is something which is phenomenal in the last few years. I personally feel that we have really waken up to this modality in the last few years. But this is a beautiful time, the lockdown time. There are very beautiful videos available of these stalwarts in different social media platforms, in YouTube channels. There have been some webinars, including this one on this. So I think this is a perfect time to upgrade, to get into the rubber dam mode once for all and get through with it.
Great. That's really great, actually. So as I was just telling you earlier, I believe the reason why we do not use a dam is more because of the excuses that we actually provide to our own selves rather than actual reasons for not using it. Great. So let's quickly see about the advantages. I mean, what are the distinct advantages that rubber dam offers to us?
So once you get used to it, you cannot do without it. So the most important advantage that it offers is, it's been rightly said that if you see better, you will do better. So what the rubber dam does is, it basically removes all the distractions at your tongue or your soft tissues, and your only point of focus is the tooth under repair. Because of the dry feel, you're able to appreciate or visualize the initial or the early decalcifications, which we tend to miss out in a wet environment. Now, moisture control refers to excluding your sulcular fluid, your saliva, and your gingival bleeds. So it eliminates the contaminated patient saliva and eventually prevents any cross-contamination or transmission of your infectious diseases in your dental office. Now, Dr. Sanchit has already covered the bioaerosol and the dental aerosol very well. Now, we all are aware that it provides an aseptic operative field, and it also prevents any pulpal contamination happening because of your oral fluids. Now, coming to patient safety, are we really aware about the amount of microbial load that the child eventually ingests as you're trying to excavate the cavities? So just give it a thought. So once we have put the child under dam, we are preventing the handpiece spray and the restorative debris from being swallowed or ingested by the child patient. It prevents an inadvertent injury to the soft tissues because of your high speed rotors, which are almost running at 1 lakh, 2 lakh RPMs. Second is it prevents any foreign body aspirations from happening. And in special children which have compromised gag reflexes, which includes your children with muscular dystrophies, your multiple sclerosis, and your epilepsy cases, it comes really handy.
A few other which we can again quickly highlight is the restoration longevity. Now we all know that no material in the world would work well along with the saliva. It is bound to fail. So, and very importantly, when we talk about, especially in pediatric dentistry, when there's a very fine line difference between how to differentiate pulpotomy and a pulpectomy, a direct pulp capping and IPC. It is bound to be happen if you're doing a pulpotomy without a rubber dam. I don't see how it's going to be successful, because you're actually opening the access and allowing the microbial from the saliva to go inside. So we feel we have a very simple philosophy in our practices: no pulp, no rubber dam, no pulp. So we don't see pulp without rubber dam. It's as simple as that. We have to understand that the surgical isolation has to be there when we are exposing the dental pulp into the human mouth. Again, a better patient control. Now, this is something which is actually a little more of anecdotal. Sometimes we always find the children who wants to talk. They want to share everything what happened in school, otherwise over there. So there's a lot of talking which happens. There's a lot of time. Okay, settle down. Let me work in. So rubber dam takes care of it. The children actually feels more calm and assured. Their tongue doesn't fight. They feel more secure. And if you have an AV going on, which in the form of audiovisual, in the form of cartoons, their focus is more on that. So again, overall, you have more control on the child placing the rubber dam. Medico-legally, it's a very important thing, because it's a fact that in case some inadvertent thing happens, and if the case goes to the in the legal portions, the judge would be asking you, did you do everything to make sure that it doesn't happen? And that's where I think the rubber dam comes to your big rescue. So it's a big legal help for you. A very important point, a lot of misconceptions are there that if we block with the rubber dam, the child will not be able to breathe and there will be an oxygenation issues. Now this is actually a urban legend. This is more like a myth. There have been dedicated studies which have highlighted that there is no desaturation happening while using the rubber dam, even in the control in asthma. Maybe, yeah, uncontrolled asthma, we might have to take care of the foldable frame part or the barrel part. But other than that, there is no contraindication as such. But if really required, one can use a pulse oximeter just to see the saturation part. But again, that's again something which should not be a barrier to not use it.
Wow. So I guess I mean, when there are a lot of advantages like this, it's a no-brainer that we are still hesitating to use the dam. So my favorite part of the presentation are the case videos, actually, to see how it is used in different scenarios. So before we go into the videos, all right, are there some would you like to summarize on the most important takeaway messages and the tips and tricks that one should follow?
So to summarize, let's follow the rule of 4 in rubber damology, which talks about a 4-point contact for your stable clamps, which talks about 4-handed dentistry to minimize the application time, and your all 4 hands are free to do better evacuations. The 4 essentials that we already spoke, which was going to come with your rubber dam kit, and the additional, which was your the liquid dam, your KY jelly, your Teflon tapes, and your dental floss. And the 4 clinical situations or the ways you're going to carry the clamp into the patient's mouth, which we've already discussed and will be covering in the video shortly.
Important 4 things to watch out. This is something which we feel is an integral part. Is again, we talked about a good quality sheets and clamps. It's a one-time thing. Let the best one come to into your hand, because then only your experience will get better, and eventually the whole implementation will become more smooth. I think Dr. Abhishek already mentioned this. It's important not to stock rubber dam. See, rubber dam sheets are not the ones which you should actually stock it, because for the simple reason, they all crumble with the moisture, temperature, and other factors. So the shelf life is always low. You can always bulk order and distribute among your friends. But when you're ordering for yourself, just keep the quantity which you feel you'll be able to finish within a month's time. The reason is the heat will make the sheet, the latex, very sticky and crumble. So the best way to check is, before using, you take the rubber dam sheet in your hand and do this. If your sheet is sticky and crumbling, better not to use it. It will just ruin the experience of putting in the child. And the most important thing is, like we put our composites and our adhesive materials, put the rubber dam sheets in the refrigerator, because that's only where it should be. The shelf life will be prolonged. And most important, check your expiry dates. A rubber dam sheet beyond the expiry date will not work. The tear resistance goes down. It will just tear out. So these are the things which actually make our experience not so good, and again takes away from the rubber dam rather than towards rubber dam.
Great. So people remember there's an expiry date even for rubber dams, and you need to remember that very, very well. True. So let's see different scenarios where how we use rubber dams in different clinical situations actually.
The different case scenarios, we would start with something which is the most common. See, in pediatric dentistry, again, we are not doing deep marginal elevation, acquisitions. We are not talking about complex procedures. Most commonly, we would be doing is a single tooth isolation. Reason being the D's and E's being affected, or vice versa, depending on the case-to-case thing. So how does we go for single tooth isolation? Let's have a quick video. This goes step by step about how to go forward for it.
Single tooth isolation for the second primary molar. It is preferable to place the tooth in the center of the dam. Keep the clamp supragingival at the height of contour to avoid impingement of the gums. Release the clamp so that the jaws are touching the tooth surface, and now gently push it apically below the height of contour. Check for stability by pulling the bracket outward and by oscillating it up and over. KY jelly is applied on the undersurface and the sheet is stretched over the clamp. Release the grip of the clamp and allow the sheet to slip over the tooth surface.
So this is a very important point.
And immediately grip it again
the rubber dam sheet to come beneath the clamp. Now this leads to 100% seal, and we really don't need to use a liquid dam, because here if you see the picture, the rubber dam sheet is encompassing or encapsulating.
Use
everything.
a waxed floss to carry an edge of the dam through the contact area. The lingual end of the floss is looped over and inserted into the contact area while carrying more dam with it. Remove floss by pulling both ends buccally without disturbing the dam.
So here we can see this picture. Sheet is covering the tooth completely. So this is almost like a 100% seal. Now for the beginners or probably who want to get used to it, you can try this in a typhodont or in a model or in your dental models, and actually put the water and see if something is seeping. So you would be surprised that actually this gives a 100% seal and there's no seepage. So again, it takes a little while to get used to this part over there. But once you're thorough with this, as Dr. Abhishek mentioned, you will never will be doing without rubber dam. And a very interesting, a very anecdotal part, your assistants actually look forward for it, because they become more comfortable with it. They feel they have to do less suction with it. So they are most happy. They're happier than us with this. moving to the next modality.
This is the 12A or 13A, isn't it? I mean, which?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So that's attached to the lower right. So that's 12V.
Okay.
So quadrant dentistry is what we are looking at now while we're treating our little ones, because you want to finish maximum and not put the child through injections again and again for the same quadrant. So let's look at the split dam technique, which is the most common method of isolation in pediatric dentistry. So what I would like to highlight over here is that instead of putting two rubber dam punches away from each other and then joining it with your scissor, instead you take your 1.5 mm diameter punch and put two adjacent punches together, and then use your 0.7 or your 0.9 mm as your third punch. So if you carefully observe in the pictures on the left, as you're moving easily, your width of the arch is decreasing. So you basically want to replicate that on the rubber dam sheet, because the resilience of the sheet will again allow minimal contamination because of your surface. So we'll quickly see the video for the same. So that's so that's two adjacent holes of the same diameter, and then you move to a smaller diameter. So this way of punching, we feel, allows better approximation to the tooth surface.
Actually, this is something, sir, which is not mentioned in the textbooks, or this is something which we have clinically adapted and improvised, and really helps in pediatric dentistry because of the small arches and the mouth.
Nice.
So if you see how well it is approximating to the soft tissues.
True.
And there's a V shape which is coming. The third one is the antidote isolation. Now, again, this comes in the picture when we're talking about severe early childhood caries, all your front four teeth going in tandem. And most of the times when we are quite used to it, we can do all four teeth together in terms of maybe a pulpotomy followed by zirconia crowns, or your strip crowns, or for that matter, in mixed dentition, multiple restorations or multiple resin filtration techniques. So anterior tooth isolation is an important thing. Sometimes we feel, oh, we need isolation only for posteriors. For anterior, it doesn't matter. But again, the oral cavity is same, the mouth is same. So it's indicated. Let's see how well we can do about it.
Another method is to use the blunt end of your excavator along with your jet of air. And that's how you retrieve the dam once your endo or your restorative procedures are done with. Thank you. For the split dam technique, punch 3 to 4 of the smaller diameter holes close to each other. Using the knife edge dam first technique, you knife the edges of the dam through the contact and stabilize it using wedges, useful in the anterior zirconia crown preparations or your endodontic.
The key thing here is if we see that it looks cumbersome initially, it might look too much of, but over time when we're using it continuously, Dr. Abhishek want to quote the time. I think when we do it in operatories and a GA, the whole thing probably takes less than 10 minutes, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have time
But again,
myself. That entire arch takes about 4.5 minutes. So we cover
Wow.
that.
but that we won't be able to reach immediately. It takes steps to reach there. Let's look at the final part. A quick review for the inversion. I think it's already covered in the video. So inversion is something which is not very frequently indicated in children dentistry because we are not looking for veneers and a lot of cosmetic work. But yes, air inversion with the dental floss, with the ligatures, or with the Teflon tape, we can get the maximum surface area. This is more indicated when we are looking for preparing for supragingival preparation of zirconia or possibly for our resin filtration and MI spots. Moving to the last clinical scenario.
So your rubber dam can be your time saver in your general anesthesia procedures, and it can improve the post-operative recovery outcome improves manyfold. Because after you remove your dam, you will see that your throat pack comes out dry. There is no tooth debris that would have gone inside and irritated the pharynx to cause any post-operative fever. So far the post-operative recoveries have been good. Second is all the teeth available for your visualization. So all the teeth requiring crown preparation, you finish all the occlusal reductions. So once you've lifted your burr for occlusal reduction, you don't need to lift it again. So that's how this initial 5-minute investment will save 15 to 20 minutes per arch in the long run. And second, you can actually take advantage of your biomaterials, which work the best in an isolated environment. So we have a small video by Tooth Tales. That's rubber dam under general anesthesia. This is a more elaborate video for the full arch isolation under general anesthesia. So you have to check for your interproximal contact. So in this case, there was a filling that was fused. So it was touching the nasal. So I had to slit that first, check with the floss, and then went in ahead for the. Let the music be.
Beautiful and sweet. I never knew you were the someone waiting for me. 'Cause we were just kids when we fell in love, not knowing what it was. I will not give you up this time. Darling, just kiss me slow. Your heart is all I own. And in your eyes, you're holding mine. Baby, I'm dancing in the dark.
So try to secure it first in the most mesial tooth, so your rubber dam stays in. So that's what we did with we secured it on the central incisor first, and then started moving with your ligations.
Underneath my breath, you heard it. Darling, you look perfect tonight. Well, I found a woman stronger than anyone I know. She shares my
So
dreams.
that's the spoon-shaped excavator holding the floss ties palatally. And that hold is important because if it slips, you will never be able to grip the rubber dam. So I'm doing the holding part with my excavator, and my assistant is pulling the ligature ties.
Again, the role of the assistants are very, very important here.
So we isolated the third quadrant along with the entire upper arch in this case.
Wow.
Only the fourth was there.
And it doesn't take more than 5 minutes with practice.
It's worth for the dry sore patch, sir.
So with Sanchit, he has an issue with the nasal intubation. So he has to do quadrant wise. Here, the anesthetists are okay with the nasal intubation. So we are able to do a full mouth isolation under dam.
Okay, I mean, nasal intubation is what we even do.
Yeah. So we already discussed how we're going to save time. We've already opened all the teeth whichever need pulse therapies.
This is the best standard of care you can provide to the child because we are not wasting time in changing the instruments. One instrument acts like a scalpel and goes in one throat.
That was a wonderful video, I would say. I mean, definitely, I think it can be a game changer, and especially, I believe my OT assistant will be really thanking me. Otherwise, they're going to really they get stressed out trying to retract the tongue and the cheek, and I am telling them to retract better. You see, they should not come and touch the. Usually, it's a medical assistant who retracts, right? Not the dental assistant when you go to hospitals. So you're like telling them, you're explaining them why they should retract it well and why the saliva should not come in contact and all that. So I think this is going to change the way we do general anesthesia cases itself. So as I said, I mean, this is an eye opener. I mean, thanks a lot for this actually. And So the last thing that I want to ask you is, I'm sure after this video, if a lot of inquisitive minds are going to have some doubts regarding the same. So how can people reach you? Can you just tell us about the different means through which people can learn further from you and reach you actually?
So during these COVID times, let's actually learn to isolate. So since none of us wishes to be isolated in the little terms of it, so start your daily use of Ramadan is the beginning of wisdom. When Ramadan comes through the door, your slipshod methods will go out of the window and it will mark the beginning of better pediatric dentistry.
And there is a slide which we always, which somehow fits into every of our presentation, be it SDF, be it a biodentine, and probably fits quite well over here also. The change is always hard at the first. It's always going to be messy in the middle, but we all hope for the gorgeous at the end part over there. I think pediatric dentistry was always due for a good rubber dam isolation. Somehow we were never got that exposure or probably that highlight. We are trying our bit. I think long way to go for us also. But if we can inspire and influence people to take it up regularly and do it more, then I think we can have our old style Italiano pediatric dentistry, not only for adult dentistry.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So fantastic. I mean, this has been a wonderful session for me. I would say, see, when we started these webinar sessions and the live sessions, okay, so the most important reason why we did this was I wanted to learn, and to be very honest, I've learned a lot, and I've got really inspired from what the different things that I've seen today from your presentation, the different clinical scenarios that I've seen today from your presentation, especially how you isolate and work under general anesthesia. That's marvelous actually. So, at the end of this video, I'm sure a lot of inquisitive minds are going to be eager to connect with you. So how can they reach you and how can they learn further from you? So give us some, information about that.
So since ours is also an ongoing journey, but we also know there are a lot of people who are still beginning their journey, and it's important to have a right journey. So for the same thing, in the midst of a lot of courses and workshops, we wanted to have something which is more clinically oriented. We have something called PedoZen. In case the people who have not heard about it, they can go on social media. The Facebook page is there. We have a dedicated session only for this, like for rubber dam, like for nitrous oxide, for rubber dam, for biodentine, for SDF, for minimally invasive dentistry. We feel that everybody knows basics. The important thing is how you ice it up, how you top it up, and make it amazing for. So there's a very fine line between good and phenomenal. We try to do this fine line for all of us. Thank you for patient listening. It's been probably quite a big, long webinar, but I hope all the time was worth it. In case still somebody wants to reach us, we are pretty social media savvy. We are happy to be available. So one can reach us on Facebooks, on Instagrams, our individual clinical pages. We have our YouTube channels. You can see those lot more videos which we couldn't put here on our YouTube channels. Yeah, and that's it. The two of us probably signing it off from here, and hope we all stay safe and stay healthy in these tough times.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Sanchit and Abhishek. Thanks for that wonderful session. I'm sure the viewers are also, equally delighted as much as I am, after seeing this wonderful presentation on rubber dam. In case you have any doubts or in case you have anything to learn further or any queries, you can always post your queries in the comment section. We'll be available. We'll be frequently checking the comment section, and we will get back to you on your queries, your doubts, and all that. Thanks a lot again, Abhishek and Sanchit. It's been a wonderful hour and a half session, hour and a half time spending with you and learning a lot about rubber dam. I'm looking forward for further learning from you on different other topics too. Thanks again for accepting our invitation and joining us on this wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.